It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time!
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil on this Friday, January 13th. Feels like the year's almost over. Shelley, happy Friday. Can you reach into that bag right there? No, I'll do it. Shelley, happy Friday. It's wine time. Okay.
Happy Friday, the 13th, for those of you who are
That's
superstitious.
right. This is Friday the 13th. No wonder all hell's breaking loose.
It explains everything.
And yet explains nothing. So we are, for the second week in a row, on location.
Yeah.
We were in the speakeasy at Kurt and Joy's, from Bottle Joy, down in their speakeasy last week. This week, we've got exciting things. This is Sam Lange. For those of you who remember episode, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't think I am, it was episode 58 and episode, why isn't it showing up on my 134?
Friday the 13th.
That's right. Anyway, Sam Lange, still at Beverly's for the time being, less and less, but you know, Sam shared something with us after the last episode when we were off air, and that was that he's going to be a part of a new bottle shop that we're going to get into.
Well, we are into it.
Well, we are into it, yeah. You can see they are actually shooting for sometime in the next couple, 3 months to open the doors, and that's really exciting.
Very exciting. Yes.
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, and we're forging ahead, full speed ahead.
Yeah.
With
So
only a few minor bumps in the road.
it's like I didn't picture you've seen of Sound Mind before. And so this is something that not a lot of people with sound mind make these sort of decisions.
No, and not at this stage in their career.
Yeah, maybe not, but you know,
development.
there are no rules when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Agreed.
Yeah, so
Zero.
why retire? Just start a new business.
Yes.
Exactly.
This seems more of an adventure than yeah.
So last Tuesday was National Champagne and French Fry Day.
Yes.
And we talked about that. We do have it. We have it from our friends over at Zips, not very far.
We're having Zips chips.
Zips Chips, that's
Zips
right.
Chips.
And so, Sam, would you, first of all, for our friends on YouTube, I'm just going to do that. Hopefully you see this is the Gruet. We have featured a Gruet with Dave Adlard, and we've also had a Gruet open that bottle night last year. If you don't remember, forget, or yeah, if you remember. So Sam's going to show us the proper way of opening a champagne, because there are ways of screwing this up.
You can go awry with
Yes.
this procedure.
So why don't you talk us through
My
that?
dad did
Okay.
that a lot.
So, conveniently, the removing of the decorative capsule is traditionally made easy by a little tab.
Perfect.
Which one can then
It's supposed to rip off in one
easily
piece.
pull off in one elegant fell swoop. But it is Friday the 13th.
That's right.
And
Leave it to our
So-
guests to point that out to us.
close enough.
2 guests in 2 weeks, Shelley.
I know, that's really good.
All right,
At that point, the key, and normally one would have a appropriate towel, but we really don't have one in the construction zone today, so we're going to go without. It allows you to see it more
Sure.
clearly, and maybe that's the real reason that we're doing that. So there is a little tab here which you turn contrary clockwise,
Counter for those of you in New Zealand.
and exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
I never
Beautiful.
knew that.
Yes, every time, as it turns out.
Wow.
That's it. Once this is released, this thing is a loaded gun.
It
They're
is
not
loaded.
pointed at people that you
Like. Yeah.
Or the chandelier.
or chandeliers you like,
Yeah, there you
or such.
There's really anything you don't want damaged.
Yes, anything you don't want damaged. This thing packs quite a wallop. Sometimes they come out gently, but often they come out with a considerable gusto. And you can put out an eye. As
Yes, you can.
My mother would warn me. Yes.
So there's this thing about it. Do you twist that cork or do you twist the bottle?
I'm a bottle twister,
Yeah.
and it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So that said, you never take your hand off of the cork once you've loosened the
It's like
wire.
playing football. You cover that thing. You do not let go.
Do not let go. And then if you back and forth kind of little things, I'm not putting it. And then you will feel it.
I'm joking.
You will feel
Oh,
it
yeah.
starting to come out.
Yes, you
And
will.
Then you gently.
Oh,
Wow.
now
I
that
should have
you're
held it to the microphone. It was a very quiet. I contemplated blasting a bottle at the ceiling, but I think we should do it properly.
I told Shelley
Education's
this
sakes.
when I was young. My dad would open a sparkler, and it was probably Andre, knowing him. But he would mark occasions with that by letting it dent the ceiling.
Yes.
And I thought that was kind of cool. I don't really have a problem with that at all.
And my dad did that too, until my mother started yelling.
So, by definition, this is not champagne.
By definition, it is not. It is not from the Champagne region in France.
However,
It is a Méthode Champenois sparkling wine from, of all places, New Mexico. I remember years ago I heard about this winery that was supposedly making very, very good sparkling wine in, of all places, New Mexico.
yeah.
And so Méthode Champenois refers to the champagne method. So it is fermented, it goes through a secondary fermentation in the bottle, as does traditional champagne in Champagne, France. And, but they don't put the word champagne on the label out of respect for the French.
As it should be.
Yes, and it is as it should be. Some people do, and that is because when the treaty that said that you would not steal the name of another famous wine producing region to lend credibility to your own wine that's not from there.
Right.
When that treaty was signed, the United States was in Prohibition, and so we didn't bother with anything like that. So after Prohibition, it was kind of a free-for-all, and there are producers that say champagne on their California or otherwise.
Like Burgundy.
Yes, like Burgundy. Yes, like
Hardy
Chablis,
Burgundy.
Chablis,
like
that's right.
Johannesburg Riesling. You know, they're all places that aren't clearly are not in the
And
United
that one I
States.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, because and most people now just call it Riesling or white Riesling.
Right.
Some people still say Johannesburg Riesling, but Johannesburg's a famous town in Germany, and where they make great Riesling.
Michelle that's where they blazed a lot of their trails back in the 70s was with their Johannesburg Riesling.
It was.
So-
I will say, when I started at Beverly's in 1987, our top-selling wines: Chateau Saint Michel, Johannesburg Riesling, Beringer White Zinfandel, Kendall Jackson Chardonnay.
Yeah.
The French Paradox came along, and people started drinking red wine. Clos de Bois Merlot was kind of early to the game there, but those were the popular wines,
Yeah.
even at a restaurant like Beverly's, in that day.
Yeah. I mean, but it's an evolution.
I remember Clos de Bois Merlot was about $5.50. And that-
You do this all the time.
I know.
I remember Good Napa Cabernet used to be
$18.
$16.99.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was then.
Good
This is
Napa
now. We should toast this up and then get to where we came
The
to
French
do.
fries.
Yes.
That's right. So to health, wealth, and abundance, gratitude, romance, and
Peace on it. And the new shop.
the new shop.
The new shop. These have a lovely ring to it.
Does it have a name yet?
It has a name. The name is Lola. Lola Wine Lounge, and and it has to do a little bit with our LLC, which is a combination of Lombard and Lange, and also we like it.
You like the song?
We like the song. And in truth, we will have wines that are perhaps somewhat difficult to source, somewhat allocated, something, the occasional rarity, because, as you may or may not know, what Lola wants,
Lola gets. Yeah. So there's so many things you just brought up. you're opening a wine shop, do not have the resources as you have been able to play with from the resort.
Not even.
But you have the relationships.
Yes, that is very true.
Yes, and so we know for a fact there are plenty of distributors around here that will tell their wine bars or bottle shops either that they like or know will be interested in some of these wines they found, which sounds to me a lot like we need to get these sold so they can get drank. They're not being,
Or maybe not.
or maybe not, or maybe the winery allocated some more. I know that
Yes.
Doubleback does that from time to time. and
That
things like
is true. And in the world we live in now, we are still in a recently post-COVID world, and especially not as much in Idaho, but when you consider Washington and Oregon, which are Washington is a very big wine producing but also wine consuming state. There are a lot of restaurants that have had historical allocations, and you generally, once you have an allocation, as long as you keep purchasing that allocation, you're allowed to keep that. Many of those restaurants in Seattle just do not exist anymore. I heard the other day there were almost 2,400 restaurants in Seattle that pre-COVID that are just not there anymore.
I know the Metropolitan Grill is still there.
Yes,
I'm
still
guessing
there.
El Gaucho is still there.
Yeah,
I'm guessing Daniel's is still there, and that sort of thing. So, but those again they had the ability to withstand.
They can
some of
understand
stuff.
that.
Yeah,
Yes, absolutely.
So you talked, and I want to get into this pairing and why this actually works, but you talked about the method Champenois.
Yes.
What you didn't talk about
Yes.
was our eternal wine word of the week, which is disgorge. That's a part of the method Champenois, yes?
Yes, it is.
So I have a whole definition of disgorge here on the show notes,
It
but
doesn't have anything to do with my procedure tomorrow. does it?
no, it does not.
Just checking. Just checking.
And by the way, I am so glad you were the one who brought that up instead of me, because I would have had silence all the way home. That could be on the front end though. Anyway, disgorge. That's basically the last step, isn't it?
The last step in
Yeah.
the champagne making process. So champagne starts out as non-sparkling wine. It's just wine to begin with. Traditionally in France, that wine is predominantly either Chardonnay or Pinot Noir. And there's another great Pinot Meunier, but that is not as important.
Hardly ever, yeah.
Chardonnay and Pinot Noir are the two primary grapes. This wine is, although from New Mexico, it is a Blanc de Noir. And so, as is true of the French tradition, this is a Blanc, white wine made from Noir, Pinot Noir.
Yep.
And
Blanc de Blanc would be that of
White
Chardonnay.
from the white.
Chardonnay from Chardonnay, yes, indeed, white from white.
Yep.
And most champagne is neither of these things. Most champagne is a blend of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and maybe a little of the Pinot.
But this is 100%.
It's 100% Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of color to it, actually, more than you would expect from, say, a Blanc de Blanc. Yes. So there's perhaps a little bit of skin contact, just briefly involved in the winemaking process. But
Very pretty.
But you take your Chardonnay or your Pinot Noir. Once the wine is complete, it is put into a bottle. You add additional yeast, and then typically a little unfermented grape juice, or you could add sugar, but you need that's not traditional. But the point is you need sugar to start another fermentation going.
Gotcha.
So you have some yeast, some source of sugar, which is usually just more of the grape juice that the wine was made out of, but not fermented. And then you put a cap on it. So now it goes through another fermentation. The byproducts of the fermentation, alcohol, notably, happily, but also carbon dioxide gas.
Yeah.
And it's in a sealed container. The process naturally carbonates the wine, and now you have champagne, except for the minor inconvenience that you have this little hunk of
crap.
yeast, dead yeast, and junk and stuff. And
it's
so,
in the bottle. It's somewhere in the bottle.
It's somewhere in the
not
bottle.
where it's
No,
going to be
it's
convenient
just
to get it
around.
out.
It's not handy. So they put the bottles then into what's called a riddling rack,
Yes, they do.
which they are neck down and in this rack and at an angle, and then usually
It's about a 45-degree angle.
and as you do it, you're able to kind of increase the angle gradually. And
that's
so, yes, as you turn the bottles, and this is where people say, oh, when you store wine, are you supposed to turn the bottles? No, this is a thing that's specific to the champagne making process. So it's called
the process, not
process.
after. Yeah.
Right, yes, it's called riddling. And so you go through and two at a time, you go through these racks and you turn the bottles. As you turn them, imagine that it's inverted, gradually that yeast and stuff you don't want in there, those solids, will work their way down to the very, very neck of the bottle. Once you've accomplished that, you can take the bottle and like, once again, invert it with the neck down.
Right.
You put it into a typically like a glycol kind of solution,
Freezes
which is
that thing, right?
Yeah, which is below freezing, and you circulate it around in that. It freezes that little neck part that's submerged in there, freezes, and you then what's the actual disgorging, which you pop the cap, the pressure in the wine bottle will blow out that little plug of frozen junk that you want out of there.
Then you lose some wine
You
along the way
use a
too.
little wine along the way, and so so then you top that up with, depending on how you want to adjust the sweetness level, you can use just more of the same wine. At this point, it's completely dry. There is no residual sugar whatsoever. So that's called Brut Nature, natural Brut, and it has no added sugar, and it is completely dry. Some people call it an ultra Brut. Most champagne has a little bit of sweetness added to it. So you can again add unfermented grape juice or a combination of unfermented grape juice with some of the original wine, and you can, in that way, exactly achieve the sweetness level that you want. Brut champagnes are the other than the Brut, natural Bruts or the ultra Bruts. The Brut is up to oh my gosh, I don't remember the percentage of sugar in a to call it Brut in France. I feel like it's 1.5, up to 1.5. You can.
Well, you're off the clock, so you shouldn't have.
That's true.
But
That's
that's
true.
a lot of work for each individual.
You do that each bottle, and so
One thing have machines that riddle.
They do
wines.
machines that riddle
Clear
and the disgorging and all of that is mechanized these days. But traditionally, it was all done by hand. I had friends that owned a champagne producer, Mountain Dome Winery in Spokane, and their kids, that was their chores, you know, and you would go down and riddle bottles, and all you talk to those kids, and they remember growing up in that winery, and that was their job, to go down there and hand turn those bottles. You turn like a quarter turn.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not like every 3-4 days or something like that. Just to get that
and
set
so
up
it takes a
down
while, and you'd have to think there's a possibility for like a carpal tunnel kind of a situation, because there are thousands and thousands of bottles.
And so if I believe it was Domaine Chandon has some riddling racks, and they still manually, what they did a few years ago, like 20, and they would put a little mark on the bottom. And so you would know, right? You would have to know, because you're not just going to guess, and that little mark is a little crayon or chalk or something like that.
And it's like a little, usually like just a little white.
Just a little mark on the bottom, because you got a punt on the bottom of this.
Yes.
And so that would allow you to know, you know, because you want all those to be the same, or you screw everything up. And we actually, when we bought Domaine Chandon wine, champagne, or sparkler way back in the day, before Shelley and Phil were Shelley and Phil, bought, and we had one of those marks on the bottom. I thought that was kind of cool.
It is cool. Yeah, very.
So
I think this is very nice.
Yes, it is. Wine Time Fridays. And so we are in the middle of getting into this, and it's not true champagne, but it's champagne method champenois. I could never get that right. From Gruet, and that, I believe, is how it's pronounced. I think I talked to them.
It actually is, and although I will say that I have been told by a very reliable source who are the owners of the winery, that it is pronounced Gruet, although in secret at the winery they never say that. They say if I may say, the motto of the winery is "Screw it, drink Gruet." So
Gruet, there we
yes.
go. That would be hashtag
either
screw
is
it,
fine.
drink Gruet. I love that. So yeah, let's dig in and taste this up with this pairing.
Let's give it a go. I'm going with a unadorned French fry just to
Unadorned?
No sauce.
without sauce.
Oh yes, we have sauces. We have ketchup, dipping sauce, and tartar.
Tartar.
Which,
I'm kind of a fan of the Zips tartar.
is that right?
I've been since I was a young lad.
So, I'm sorry. Shelley and I are under the impression that champagne and sparklers will go with virtually any food.
They say that is a thing that they have always said in France, and to prove the point, we had on at Beverly's on January 29th, we had an all bubbly dinner, 7 courses, everything paired with some manner of sparkling wine. You know, a couple
And so it
champagnes.
really was good with the
It was,
meat?
yes, it was good with everything. The it wasn't I will say it was not like a charred ribeye steak.
So
Was
maybe
this-
you
I
would
think
get
I remember
more
maybe duck.
rosé.
Yeah, we had a rosé with the entree. Yes,
Is this in 2022 or this coming year?
this was in 2022. It
Okay,
just
that's-
recently happened.
So,
Did I say December 29th?
December 29th.
Yes,
Okay. I was a little confused because sometimes
that is confusing.
but I get confused easily. So December 29th. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. That's been our quandary. Can it really go with the steak?
You know what? I think it can. And so, to me, the things that make a wine pair well with food, there are, you can, try to match or contrast, flavors with the food. And so something that's a steak that's got a nice char on it, a smoky, kind of oak aged Cabernet or Syrah, that type of wine, that has a very, you're echoing the flavors of the food. The other method is to contrast the flavors, and wines that are lighter bodied with good acid and very dry work with almost any food, other than perhaps than very sweet. But the acidity is very cleansing. In bubbly, you also have the effervescence, which also is a cleansing effect. So that's really where it comes in with like the fried food, French fries, fried chicken, fish and chips, those kind of things. I think with champagne is a magical pairing. Popcorn, another great pairing. Things that are salty and a little, a little fat content, a little bit of salt. It's a beautiful thing.
The price point on this Gruet is actually really good too.
Yes, it is.
I want to say it's around 20-ish, 25.
Something I don't recall exactly, but I'm thinking.
Is this non-vintage?
Yes, this is. Generally they are.
I think I remember that. Shelley, have you tried the dipping sauces?
I've not tried the tartar sauce.
I've tried all 3,
And
and all 3 fantastic. The odd day of Champagne and French Fry Day was started by sommeliers Anna Maria and Cleopatra Bright. Do those names ring a bell to you at all?
Yes, I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, right.
The notes say who know a thing or two about wine and food.
Yeah.
They probably
Yes,
I
I think they're.
didn't recognize the names. But
Yeah, I think they're. I don't follow these things that religiously, but I think they are famous in the psalm circles or the. Yeah.
so some of the notes I have is when you look at the fundamentals of this pairing, you can see that they're like a symphony of acid, salt, and fat that is in harmony. And this breaks that down a little bit, right? Especially with salt as well, right?
Yes.
So it's really interesting because people look at this and go, you can't pair that with that. Well, that brings up the question, Sam. Fast food and wines.
Yes.
So if I were to say, How about a barbecue? Now this is still a little early in the year talking about barbecue, but some of us in North Idaho barbecue year round.
I certainly do, yes.
Yes, I mean I think real people do.
I feel like, yeah.
So those of you who aren't real, become real and start barbecuing outside, even if it's, balmy 25 degrees or whatever.
It can be 25 degrees, and that's no excuse not to go out and fire up the grill.
I will say it takes longer to heat up.
It does, yes, it does.
There have been some of those really cold days. I'm like, why I can't seem to get the heat that I need. But anyway, that's kind of funny. Hot dogs. What would you?
Yes.
What would you pair with hot dogs?
Wow, gosh, I'm such a beer and hot dog guy. Though,
Yeah,
is the thing.
yeah.
But you know what? No, I feel like Gamay. A lighter body, bright. Good acid red. Gamay, a lighter style Grenache. That sort of a thing. But I'm kind of liking Gamay right now. That kind of sounds like something I'd want to give a go.
Even a Gamay Beaujolais.
Yeah, yes. And so, Beaujolais just being the ancestral home of the Gamay, but technically the Gamay Noir grape.
Oh, I was thinking Beaujolais Nouveau.
Maybe
not
so
that one.
Yeah, I don't know about Beaujolais Nouveau.
Well, if you like Kool-Aid with hot dogs, that'd be just
so. But I think good. Even just a Beaujolais Village or certainly a Cru Beaujolais Morgon or Fleury, that kind of thing.
And we're talking
absolutely
$15 to $20 bottles of wine.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
so-
would be magnificent. Yeah.
And we're talking hot dogs.
And I like my Gamay with a little bit of a chill on it.
Yes.
Which in the summer, when you're like grilling hot dogs and hamburgers and such, a Gamay with a little bit of a chill is
Like a Lambrusco.
delightful. A Lambrusco, you know what? I will say again that Lambrusco is kind of a maligned grape variety because of bad Lambrusco. It's
Not
a
maligned
very
in our house.
no. I think I'm a Lambrusco fan, and there are
Me too.
yeah, we have a couple Lambruscos on the list at Beverly's, and I think they're eminently food friendly, easy to like, fun, enjoyable wines, and very reasonably priced.
So we are drinking this sparkler out of a white wine glass, the one white wine glass from Andrew Robinson. What do you think about this out of this glass?
I have been a proponent for a while of anything but flutes.
It's so interesting because look at
You can
the
swirl
opening on
this
this. It's not all that
into
much
the-
bigger than a flute.
No, but you certainly can, have some room to swirl the wine around. But it's big enough even for me to get my nose into it.
Exactly.
And kind of enjoy the wine, smell the wine. It kind of it is a smaller, more delicate version, but it is shaped like a Burgundy glass, a Pinot Noir glass.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, this wine is made of Pinot Noir.
Right.
And that is the I learned this on watching a YouTube video of French champagne vintner by the name of Igli, and he drinks his champagne. He insists on having it out of Burgundy glasses. Champagne is essentially a sub-region of the Burgundy region of France, and they grow the same grapes, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And just because there's bubbles in the wine doesn't mean that it's not still the right glass to drink the wine out of.
Still.
Still.
Even if it's not still.
Shelley absolutely loves her sparklers in this glass.
I do too. I think it's a great glass for sparklers.
And so we are always pushing people to, Riedel has their place, but if you don't want to buy, 12, 15 different glasses, get the one red wine glass and the one white wine glass.
This is a great all-purpose white wine glass, I think.
Dishwasher safe, and according to Andrea, she dropped it from about 3 feet up, and it didn't break on concrete, so that's pretty good in itself.
Let's not try it.
Let's not
No,
try it.
let's not try it. We only have like 4.
It will also not be the first glass that's been broken on.
I imagine that's true.
Alrighty.
In its young history.
How about cheeseburgers?
Cheeseburgers. I think still the Gamay thing works, but I like to go a little, Gamay's kind of like champagne, to be honest. It's the wine that will go with almost anything because it's bright, good acid, fresh, fruit forward. But with hamburgers, I'm kind of liking Syrah. A little, you got a little char from the grill, a little bit of that smokiness from the Syrah. A little kind of something a little bit meaty, not too heavy, but on the other hand, with I think you want a little bit of a fruit-forward kind of a vibe in the wine because you probably will have condiments and assorted accoutrements on your hamburger, and so barbecue sauce and things. You know, you kind of need a wine that's got a little kind of riper, more generous fruit. You know, to come across right with that. So I think Syrah's a great thing. But I will say many times in my life I've opened a bottle of Cabernet because seems to be always one lying around somewhere, right? And
look, there's one under the couch.
Or a red blend. You know, it all works fine. Yeah. And it is. Sometimes I think the more complicated the food, then it definitely makes it harder to pair wine.
Then you need a simpler wine?
I think a simpler wine. I think complicated wine to me almost wants simple food. And
if you have a big old plaid shirt, you're not going to wear a plaid top. Well, some people do, but you wear a solid color, the vice versa, solid shirt, you have a little bit more fun tie.
Yeah.
We all remember the scene in Sideways where you have the 47 Lafitte.
Cheval Blanc.
Cheval Blanc, there you go.
Because notably, the Cheval Blanc is primarily Merlot, which was kind of unfairly maligned in the movie.
They never mentioned that in the movie.
No, they never mentioned that. But
No.
but Merlot was actually his favorite grape. I mean, it was a Pinot Noir sort of based movie because that's where they were.
Right.
But Pinot Noir was his favorite, or Merlot was his favorite grape. His cherished, actually it was 1961 Cheval Blanc, famous wine.
That's the one you drank in the movie?
Yes.
I remember 47%.
At the
very end,
yeah.
in the fast food place,
Yes.
with the bottle in a brown bag,
Yes.
and he pours it into a styrofoam
Yes.
cup.
Yes, he does.
Now, we are talking in this episode about everyday fast food, everyday foods, going with wines and what you can pair with them. That certainly doesn't mean you can't pair an unbelievable wine with something like fast food.
That is true.
You absolutely can, and sometimes those are the best pairings. It was so sad, that scene, though.
Yes.
Because he had saved that. Again, it's what Open That Bottle Night
Yeah.
is all about. Don't save the wine so long that
Right.
it goes over the hill. Make the wine the
Or you
reason.
go over the hill.
Or you go over the hill.
Life is short, drink the good wine.
Shelley, we're
True
going to
that.
get into that Long Shadows again.
Oh, no.
Oh, that was...
Yep, so I will say there are wines that we have at Beverly's. 1945 Chateau Latour, for example. 1961 Haut-Brion, the 61 Cheval Blanc. Those wines, we did not buy those at release. The resort didn't exist then. You know, I mean, you know, for some of those wines, I didn't exist then. We bought those wines at wine auctions.
Yeah.
And the reason they ended up at a wine auction was someone who was a ardent collector of wines with a beautifully maintained, temperature-controlled cellar, and there are and plenty of money, and there are a lot of these people around the world. One of these people had been cherishing this wonderful collection of wines year after year, accumulating the wines. At some point, they pass away. You know,
And the wines
the family sends the wine to auction. I go there and buy it, and now it's on my list, and maybe I get to drink it.
And maybe you do. We already talked about the Eternal Wine Word of the Week, which is Disgorge. Boy, I'm drinking this much too fast.
And you're driving home?
Oh, come on.
I'm good. Thank you.
Just keep in mind, when we had Sam on, I think it was episode 134, we blasted through a lot of wine that night, to the point where Shelley and I are both going, how does he do this job? But he does it well.
Years of ardent practice.
Art and practice, a true veteran and professional from top to bottom.
You know, I will say another thing. Sparkling wine, they say that because of the effervescence, and that's true of cocktails that are mixed with soda, you know, sparkling mixer.
It'll go through a little quicker?
Yes, it does. It gets in the bloodstream faster. Another thing that makes it an appropriate wine for celebratory events.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess, yeah, for sure. Shelley, anything on your mind right now?
What is it?
How are you enjoying this wine? I guess I should say. Because this is really good. We've had this.
Are we going to rate it?
Well, I think we should. You know, we only had a 5-word rating system when we had Sam on last time. And Sam
Another one because
decided we should coin one more. Pretty damn good. So it is now there.
Okay.
We have 6. I don't think this is anywhere near practically perfect or pretty damn good. I think this is well into the phenomenal. Which is number one. Just want to give a shout out to those people. Anyway, this is really fantastic. What do you say?
I would say practically perfect.
Right there.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. I grabbed this spontaneously because it was in my refrigerator, and who knew?
Well, and who
I
knew you
just
had a
love
water?
it. I love it, and also the fact that it's from New Mexico.
Yes.
It's so cool. Pretty much nobody knows this because you're such a new. You're not even open yet, but you have a walkout fridge.
We do. Some people have a walk-in fridge. We
Yeah.
have a walkout fridge.
Yeah, sometimes it might be a
That's
walkout
where-
freezer.
Yes,
That's where
it could be.
the
Yes.
That's where the sparkling wine was. We pulled up and I'm like, I think I know what we're having. Gruet.
It's sitting out on the stoop, as it were.
Gruet. Open a Gruet. Okay, a couple more things. Taco.
Taco.
Yeah, again, we're talking fast food. So, although tacos, we make tacos at home all the time. They're fantastic.
We make tacos at home a lot.
Yeah. So it's always a quandary. We throw a Tempranillo or a Grenache. Or,
I think you're on the right path.
Okay.
It's a lighter bodied, brighter, acid wine. So that can be, it can still be Gamay, it can still be Lambrusco. I think
Or a
Lambrusco
Pinot.
can be super fun. It can be a lighter, a brighter Pinot.
Yeah.
It could be Chianti. It could be a proper, a proper Tempranillo.
Yeah.
I think any of those things.
I would never consider going a non-proper Tempranillo.
Well, I say proper Tempranillo because there's a lot of Tempranillo being grown, well, not a lot, but increasingly Tempranillo is being found in the United States and North America. Snake River Valley, you see Tempranillo seems to do really well there. There's some Washington producers making Tempranillo. They tend to be a bigger, darker, more structured, more tannic wine that you think more of a red meat, steak
almost
kind
like
of a wine.
Zinfandel-ish?
Yes, almost Zinfandel-ish.
Yeah. That's a word. Hashtag Zinfandel-ish.
So, when I say proper, I mean maybe traditional Spanish, lighter body, brighter acid, more fresh, kind of fruit forward.
It's so
Tempranillo.
It really is all about the terroir. And
It
that's
is.
exactly what we're talking about right there, the terroir, right? So, what
But then
else?
there might be, Phil, we're not done with the tacos. What about a fish taco? What about
that's a great question because on my notes there's all of these different examples, and I'm not putting all those down.
Right.
But you're right. You have fish tacos. You even have pork or chicken tacos and beef tacos and things like that.
Right.
They're all going to require a different wine.
I feel like they do, because all of those things. I don't know that with like a grilled mahi with a tropical fruit salsa and that. I think you want to have a high acid. Doesn't have to be sweet, but maybe a little, definitely fruit forward, high acid, a drier style, but just slightly sweet German Riesling. I think would be great with that kind of a fish taco.
Speaking of fish, how about fish and chips?
Champagne.
Nice.
Sorry.
No,
It's fried, it's fish, it's chips.
You
it's,
do not
it's
have to
champagne.
apologize.
Yeah, no, it's the right thing to do right here, fish and chips.
Right.
So we already have the chips.
We do have the chips. So there are, we talked about this being about $25 for this sparkler. In Champagne, we have some, I don't want to say lower end because they're not. They are less expensive. They're not the Dom Perignons, they're not the Cristals, they're not those very well-known high-end champagnes, right?
quick. Now reminded me something. I have to interject a quick thought.
Please.
One of our
Love
favorite
refreshment.
guests, locals, favorite guests at the at Beverly's. This lovely, in my spectrum of the world, a younger couple that comes in fairly regularly into Beverly's restaurant and will order a bottle of Roeder Cristal Rosé.
Rosé.
And
Those rosés are actually a little bit more spendy.
they are.
Yeah.
The Cristal Rosé is quite a bit more than the non. And they enjoy the regular Cristal. They particularly enjoy the rosé, and they will order fried chicken, an extra side of truffle fries, and a bottle of Cristal Rosé. And it is their go-to date night thing, and it is
You want to be them?
No, I just know Shelley's gonna go. I know what our date night should be because Shelley freaking loves Cristal.
That's
Yeah,
my
it is a wonderful thing. Yeah, we have quite an assortment of vintages at Beverly's right now. We're able to acquire some older vintages. So we have, if you will, a little mini vertical of
A mini
Cristal.
Really? Yeah, how fun
Cristal,
is that
yeah.
though?
It is.
Yeah.
It's great fun. Yeah.
Sam's got a very tough job. I'm just gonna say, and what he deals with on a
So
daily
sad.
basis.
Yeah. I'm moving on though. So there's that. Yeah.
There is.
There are a lot of aspects. It's a wonderful place especially for someone in my realm of the business. And there are things there that you just can't do really anywhere else around here at all. You know?
Well, tell us a little bit about what your vision is here for Lola's.
So the vision in Lola's, it's going to be kind of a date night type of a vibe. It'll be kind of a softer, sexier kind of a sort of a place.
Lower lights.
Lower lights, certainly lower than
Then these drop lights here.
They're hanging precariously.
They are hanging precariously now that I know this.
Softer lighting, softer music, kind of a warmer vibe, and we will. And so then more of an elegant setting, and yet elegant and at the same time approachable.
So some of the other champagnes that are out there, Piper Heidsieck.
Yes.
There's also Charles Heidsieck. Now, what are the difference between the two?
Yeah, there, as is the case a lot in France, and really, when you think about it anywhere, you grow up in a wine family, you break off and you kind of, have your own thing. Right, and then that happens a lot. And like in the United States, you have, the Robert Mondavi, legacy. That company eventually went public. Tim Mondavi still makes a wonderful Napa Cabernet called Continuum.
Oh, that's right.
It's kind of Continuum is kind of his extension of his father's legacy of making great Napa Valley Cabernet.
And now we have Hans Cornell's daughter.
Yes. See.
Making sparkling.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's just some children grow up and want to take over the family winery. It happens a lot in Burgundy where you have families, the Sauzets and such that break off, and then they have their kids and their nephews, nieces and nephews, and they all go off and they all have different wineries. The Bordeaux
because they were all riddling all those sparklers
They
down the
know how to
road.
do that.
So it's just that. It's just like that. That just happens.
So Piper Heidsieck, Charles Heidsieck, Nicholas Fouillade.
Yeah, Gruet, Nicholas Gruet. Yeah, one of my favorite luxury cuvées is the Nicholas Fouillade Palme d'Or.
Okay.
It's that beautiful kind of dimpled bottle.
Yeah.
A lovely reserve level, luxury cuvée.
And that's obviously not in the $25 to $40 price range, but most of these are between like $25 and $40.
Right.
That doesn't seem like a very inexpensive. Well, they're from Champagne.
Yes.
They are a champagne.
And we've talked about the process of making the wine, which certainly, certainly.
But the champagne name is going to go ahead and let's just add $10-$15 right off the top because of champagne.
Plus you have to ship it over.
That's right.
These days we occasionally have tariffs involved with French wine.
No fooling. Jacques Hart?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I was not familiar with that. Moet Chandon.
Yes.
We know them. And then, of course, Tabinger.
And Bollinger.
And Bollinger, yeah. I didn't, actually, Bollinger was on this list, but it was more like a $70 or $80 champagne.
Yeah.
So a little bit.
Same thing with Dom Perignon. Dom was the wine of James Bond until Bollinger took that.
And then you have some
spot.
rapper that drinks Cristal in a rap video.
Yes, that is.
Cristal takes off.
Or Ace of Spades. That's another one that they like to pour on their party goers on the yachts.
We have money to burn. Go ahead and burn it. You should burn it in my bank account, though. That's all I'm saying.
Or just so that you have a taste of the wine.
But no, I'd rather have the money. So we have next week Roshni. Did I say it right? Roshni?
Roshni.
Yep.
From Naked
Gruet
Wine. She was
from Naked
delightful and
Yes.
very knowledgeable.
We are very excited about that. That's next week. But we also have Ferment Day. Sam, how often do you drink a ferment?
Rarely, and yet I enjoy the grape. I think it makes a very interesting, fun, dry white, and I plan to have one here. I think that Krista has one up at a ferment up by
Let's go get up there because she'll probably have one that we haven't had. We've had one already one time on this podcast, but this will be the second one that we feature.
Yeah. But it is more well known as the grape variety that you make the sweet wine, the from Hungary, the Tokaj.
Oh yeah.
And so Tokaj is made from that grape variety. And so it's typically
and that's
very
sweeter.
Very sweet, like Chateau Weekend, like Sauterne. It's a very sweet dessert wine. I think it has suffered from being for many years behind the Iron Curtain, not being really readily available.
Sure.
To the rest of the world. I think it's a wine that rivals the great French Sauterne and German Trockenbeer and Auslese wine. One of the great dessert wines of the world, and in that sense, a relative value.
Every time we have Sam on, I've got this litany of things that
We gotta try that.
I know, we gotta try this, gotta try that. I love this. So Ferment Day is February 1st. National Rosé Day in Australia and New Zealand anyway.
Because it's summer there.
That's right. It's February 5th. International Syrah Day, Shelley, is February 16th. And then National Global Drink Wine Day, I think it's every day, but National Global Drink Wine Day is February 18th. I guess we'll probably have wine that night too.
Maybe. We'll see.
A huge thank you to our sponsors, Coeur D'alene Fresh and ELSOM Cellars. And an even bigger thank you to Sam Lange, who is spearheading this new endeavor called Lola's.
Lola Wine Lounge.
What Lola wants, Lola
gets.
Yeah.
And with that, we hope we give you some information, because with a little bit of knowledge, wine becomes a lot less overwhelming.
Right. Wine should be approachable.
I was hoping that's what you were going to say. Yes.
Yeah, winemakers make wine for people to drink and enjoy. It's not to be put on a pedestal. It's just a part of a healthy lifestyle and every day.
It is such a part of a healthy lifestyle. One might say the most important.
The most.
Thank you for listening. We will see you next week when we have Roshni on. Have a great weekend. Go grab yourself a sparkler or a champagne and listen.
And some fries.
And some fries. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you. To health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.